Hello and thank you for attending my presentation about the Spacies in Smash Ultimate. More so, what the hell's been going on with them recently? Starting off, we have Fox in Smash Ultimate. Fox has always been considered probably the best glass cannon rushdown character in this entire game, being second only to maybe base release Pichu. Over time, we started to see Fox slightly decline, not due to the power creep that early meta characters typically suffer, but simply because his already bad matchups just kind of became more prominent. There isn't really a character that outdoes what Fox does, however there are characters that just hard shut down his archetype, that being a glass cannon. Still though, in Modern Ultimate, he does well into a lot of key matchups, Core and Sonic, Rob, Aegis, and Cloud being the main examples. The notable Fox mains right now are Light from North America and Kananabe and Paisariman from Japan. Notably, there is also Ryukai, the best Fox in EU, who is around the top 5 mark with the character. So what's been going on with Fox recently? Not that much, the character's kind of on fraud watch. Light's been struggling into the typical Fox problem matchups of Luigi, Game & Watch, Steve, and Ices, alongside a new problem that's matched up in Lucas. Kananabe's been getting fine results, but hasn't gone on a career-defining run like he did back at Port Priority 8, and Paisariman rarely competes nowadays, and is also co-maining the character alongside Falco and Diddy Kong. Still, I wouldn't say the character's bad, they're always going to be a good character. The 6th fastest run speed in the game and one of the most aggressive characters, incredible frame data on all of his kit, and an insanely popular and relevant top player. The meta only ever shows one side of the story. Sure, he struggles versus Luigi in Game & Watch, but he can always win those matchups with enough practice. He just needs to play in a completely different way, which is hard for a lot of Fox mains to do. Next up, we have Falco's history in Smash Ultimate. Falco's always hovered around the mid to high tier ranges, more often high tier nowadays. Has always been relatively an unpopular character, but I mean, we'll get to it. That is flipped on its head recently, and is honestly the anti-meta character, doing amazingly into the heavies, for instance. The notable Falco reps are Masa and Matsunabe from Japan and Tilde from North America. Of course, it'd be awful to miss out on the honorable mentions of our Falco mains, Larry Lur and Rory Kusu being the main two to talk about. Falco is the #1 character which represents what I will call the overseas difference. Many characters in Smash Ultimate will play differently depending on which region they grew up in playing. Typically, this is just because they had to approach the game differently depending on which players were good, which characters were prominent, etc. But Falco is the most interesting case of this, where their top players completely disagree on the character. Over in North America, we have this matchup chart from Larry Lur and Tilde, which lists Falco's worst matchups, roughly, as Sonic, Pikachu, Sephiroth, and Game & Watch specifically as his worst. Notably, this also has Steve in partially winning, Kazuya in even, and Kirby in winning. Yes, I promise you Kirby in winning stands out. Meanwhile, over in Japan, this matchup chart is completely different. Falco apparently struggles against characters like Kazuya, Ice Climbers, Kirby, and Shulk. Alongside that, there's incredible differences in very prominent characters, such as Steve, Sephiroth, Game & Watch, and Cloud. Notably, the difference between Ice Climbers and Game & Watch being Falco's worst matchups are really insane to me, but I don't play the character, so I don't know which one is truly better. Now, one could assume from these two matchup charts that Japan is more pessimistic on Falco. That could not be less of the case. Sure, if you look at the entirety of this power ranking, you can see that every region gets a fair share of Falco here and there. But if you look specifically towards the top, it is clear that a lot of the best Falco mains are from Japan. This isn't the first time we've seen this happen with a character either, where Japan thinks a character is wildly better than the rest of the world thinks they are. See, for example, my last video in which I brought up how Japan thought Wario was the best character in the game for a long time. There are a lot of similarities between how Japan used to see Wario and how Japan sees Falco now. Japan's meta seems to roughly revolve around characters who have simple game plans that are easy-ish to execute. You can learn these characters in a lab, in a training mode, and Wario and Falco both fit that. So how's Falco doing now? Mostly pretty good. Tilde got a huge win on Light at CT GamerCon. Rory Kusu, who is making a name for himself as one of the best Falcos in the world, has made a career-defining run at Delta 10 just recently. And Masa is doing Masa things. He is incredibly skilled with the character, and honestly makes me doubt whether Japan or North America's matchup charts are better. I do not think Falco has a rep in the top 10 of the world right now, but I could see it happening with time. Of course, I don't know who that would be in this case. Still though, the character is doing completely fine for themselves, and is on the rise. Not as on the rise though, as our last stop for this video. It's long enough into the video now, I can swear, right? Alright, cool. What the fuck is going on with Wolf? Wolf has a complicated history in Ultimate, was initially considered one of the best characters in the game, bar none. However, power creep was introduced. You know how I said there aren't characters that do what Fox does better? There are kind of characters who do what Wolf does better, alongside characters that kinda should shut him down. This caused him to go from the absolute top of top tier to somewhere around high tier. I'm not exactly sure where people would have put him at the time. However, when I say Wolf was seen as one of the best characters at the start of Ultimate, I mean it. Zachary, Tweak, and Leo all played the character for a considerable amount of time. However, all three of these players and many other players who played the character ended up dropping him for other choices as Ultimate's meta evolved, leaving Wolf in Ultimate seen as this early meta character that really couldn't cut it in the modern day. I will also point out of these three, Leo played the character for much less time, but this is a video by me, I had to put him in here somewhere. However, Wolf still had notable reps after that, including but not limited to, Ouch, the best wolf ever, hailing from Canada, Masha, not Masa, from Japan, and Jackal from Tri-State. Now, what changed with Wolf? Well, let's talk about Grand Slam 7. This was a Super Smash Ultimate Major where no player in attendance had won a major prior to this event. This featured amazing players such as Carmelo, a Steve, Shulk, Aegis, Corin, co-main? They play a lot of different characters, but they have insane wins, such as Gluttony. Tutti Goody, the best banjo main ever created. Seriously, having a winning record on Spargo with this character is insane, alongside having notable wins such as MK Leo and Mutace. And Alice, Japan's best Roy main, alongside a very good Kazuya secondary. I'm simply scratching the surface when I say these are the threats we were dealing with. Seriously, every character shown here had a rep who genuinely could have won the tournament. But you know what happened? A miracle run. I don't think I saw a single person on the lead up to this event predict that Masha would have won. Through many upsets, Wolf would go on to win a major 6 years after this game was released. This is doubly impressive because Masha has been competing since Brawl. Still though, most people saw this as a one-time thing.
I don't think many people genuinely saw this and thought, oh, Wolf is top tier again,
unless they had already thought that Wolf was top tier. However, since then, Ouch has been on a career-defining run. After a disappointing 33rd at Eugene Bound, a super regional, Ouch has made it his mission to show up and show out at every event he enters, winning the Battle of BC pre-local and going on to have probably the standout run from that event, getting wins on MK Big Boss, Tutti Goody, Mia, and Akola. These are all insane wins, and the fact that every time Ouch has matched up into Mia, it has been dominant. Ouch is genuinely the person to define modern Wolf, doing things that I've seen nobody else do with the character. While most people would say Wolf is typically defined by their neutral, Ouch is the only one practicing their punish game at this point. And that's not to mention, Ouch won what would have been a major. Of course, it ended up not being a major due to DQs, but Ouch still won it over insanely stacked competition. Of course, this is partially due to Ouch believing in this character like no other. It is genuinely so impressive to see a top rep of an early meta character truly believe that the character loses no matchups. I said before that Steve, Rob, and Sonic were Wolf's worst matchups, and I believe Ouch agrees to an extent, but still has them listed as even in this matchup chart. We have only ever seen this mentality with one other player before, Sonic's, who has gone on to define that character as being top 2 in the game for some people. In conclusion, early meta character doesn't instantly mean they're bad now. All 3 Spacies in this game are honestly quite amazing characters, and I would love to see what a tri-main of all 3 characters would look like. And Ouch is genuinely just an insane person. I don't know how he does it with this character. This video was inspired by ElectricWindGirlfriend. Go watch her videos if Pokemon at all interest you, and make sure to do your daily click for Palestine. I'm not fucking around. Genuinely go do it. It goes to a good cause. Oh, also, I forgot to record this during the rest of the video. Big shoutouts to the channel members, Luminosity and Linksicle. If you want to help out the channel and help out me, make sure to become a member. It's only $5.99 and it helps me out immensely. You get videos early and you get your name at the end of videos like this. Thank you all so much. Okay, bye.